Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce the members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Simone Bogarty, Assistant Town Attorney. To her left is Peter Hans, Smithtown Planning Director. You're all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. They're also listed up on the board for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested variance is substantial. And number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Matt if you haven't done so already. Then you will be asked to go to the podium where you'll state your name and address for the record and proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information is accepted concerning the case. There are 2 ways to find out about your case. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12, or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have 2 adjournments tonight. The first adjournment is case number 18967, Carol Pizzicaud Belmonte. Anyone here for that case? That case has been adjourned to August 8th.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. All right.
I'll return on that date. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Is that the case?
That's the case that he
Oh.
was here for.
The next case is case 18972, Roman Development LLC. That also has been adjourned to August 8th. All right, Peter.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're recommending that the first 3 cases be heard together, as they're all the same applicant. This is case 18962, 18963, and 18964. They're all under the name of Oakwood Building Group. The first one, the location is Marchant Drive, St. James. This is the southeast corner of Marchant Drive and Browning Street, which is it's Smithtown. Property zone R10. They're requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 30 feet for a proposed 2,979 square foot, 2-story single-family dwelling with 546 square foot attached garage. The second case is asking for similar relief, variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 30 feet for a proposed 2,979 square foot, 2-story single-family dwelling and 546 square foot attached garage, basically the same house. The third one, variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 30 feet for a proposed 2,979 square foot, 2-story single-family dwelling and 546 square foot attached garage.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Hans. Probably 3 or 4 months ago, we came in with these same 3 lots and asked you for a rear yard variance. And if you look at the lots as a whole, the lots on the south side are shorter in length than the lots on the north side. But we made a mistake. The mistake was, instead of asking this board for a front yard variance to give the future homeowners more of a backyard, we did the reverse. So we're asking the board now actually to help us correct our own mistake. When my clients laid out the houses, they saw that it would be much more beneficial to the future homeowners and all the people within that 7 lots to make the front yards 30 feet and the rear yards larger. So we don't need the rear yard variances anymore, because that's where we're going to have a greater distance for rear yard enjoyment. And the front yards really don't affect anybody other than the houses which we are building on the other side of the street. And also, these 3 houses, if the board is inclined to give us those variances, will be in line with an existing house next to Lot 7. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. Again, I emphasize that we don't need or want the rear yard variance that you granted 3 or 4 months ago. We're not going to use that. We're going to hopefully use the front yard variance to make the rear yards more attractive.
Right. So all 3 rear yards will be 50 feet?
Yes.
Approximately 50 feet?
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anyone on the board that has any questions on these applications?
Oh, thank you.
thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Nothing? Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the applications, please?
Second?
Motion has been made to close the applications. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next application is case number 18965, Vincent and Antonetta Nuzzi, 59 Washington Drive, Kings Park, northeast corner of Washington Drive and Elm Road, Kings Park. Property zoned R10. They're requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet on Elm Road for a proposed 14-foot by 28-foot in-ground swimming pool.
Okay, one second, please. You have to slow down a little bit. You have to get- Okay. Good evening.
My husband and I would like to put an in-ground swimming pool on our property. Because we're on a corner, currently the fence goes right up to the house line, so we have a vast amount of land to the side, which currently is kind of open to the street. So it would kind of greatly increase our backyard space where we could put landscaping and just have better curb appeal to the neighborhood.
All right.
I believe the pool would only be expanding just right where the fence is currently.
Right, right. You're not moving the fences or anything, it's just,
It'll be going.
it's fitting right in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application? Planning?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just one minor comment. The survey does show that the existing stockade fence encroaches up to 1.9 feet onto the parcel to the north. We recommend that any approval require the removal or legalization of that encroachment. So behind the pool, the existing fence encroaches onto the neighbor's property, so you'd have to bring that back onto your property.
That's not a problem.
Okay,
We intend on replacing it and bringing it further back into our property line.
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please? Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
and Mississippi. Town board likes to go fast.
You all set? Hey, he jumped the gun last time. He jumped the gun last time.
Figured I'd announce while they're walking up.
All right, go ahead.
Next case, number 18966, Fred Ferry, 15 Flamingo Drive, Smithtown, New York, north side of Flamingo Drive, 748 feet east of Signet Drive in Smithtown. Property zoned R21. The request is a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 39 feet for a proposed 440 square foot attached garage addition and proposed 160 square foot front porch.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Fred N. Ferry. I reside at 15 Flamingo Drive in Smithtown. Just a little background information. I purchased a property in Smithtown in 1962. And I am the original owner and maintained the property all those years. We're asking for a waiver on the garage situation, so we hope you give that consideration. I have a special needs grandson who resides with me, and we would like to continue that with my daughter and my son-in-law have agreed to move in with me and sell their properties in Sayville so we can live together. So again, I've been there for 62 years. We did have a few. I lost my wife and my two sons in the last 5 years. And so we need to make some changes. And I don't believe what we're asking is will in any way affect the area around me. So I'd like your consideration on that.
All right. Thank you.
Denise Trifaro from DTT Design. I'm here to answer any design questions or dimensional questions that you might have. Trifaro, T-R-I-F as in Frank, A-R-O. So the garage is being shifted forward of the house because there was an addition back in 2007 that went around the back of the house. So not to disturb that area back there, to preserve it, the new addition had to come forward of it.
Okay. And then you're covering the front porch?
Yes, and that's set back from where the garage doors would be. So that's further back of a setback for that as opposed to the front of the garage.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we do not object to any of the setback requests. However, there is a question about the floor plan. We just wanted to clarify, because they're not asking for a special exception for a mother-daughter. So basically, the building official determines it not to be a temporary living quarters, provided that there's at least a 4-foot wide opening and that there's not doors. So we just wanted to question the first floor arrangement,
Yes.
that it's not a separate apartment.
Yes, there is an opening there, if you see where the washer dryer is. And then there's a wood-burning stove in the corner of the den. That is an opening with no door on it. So it is free-flowing from one portion of the house to the other. It's not separated.
That was all I had.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? The property is located within the Nissaquag River Wild Scenic and Recreational River System Corridor. DEW recommends that the board withhold any decision until the applicant is in receipt of all permits from DEC or a written notification from DEC that permits are not required. Additionally, the current application to create 5 potential bedrooms, 4 labeled as such, plus a second floor loft, formerly a bedroom, and the addition of a second full kitchen and full bath associated with the first floor bedroom may exceed Department of Health standards. DEW recommends that the board withhold action pending the receipt of an application submitted to the Office of Wastewater Management that conforms with health standards. We have notified the applicant's representatives of their need to contact the Department of Health. Lastly, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight on this application.
Yes,
Okay.
we are aware of that.
You're aware?
The
Okay.
designer did speak to the person who issued that letter today, and he said just to get a letter from the Suffolk County Department of Health, authorizing or, making them aware that what the situation is there, and there will not be 5 bedrooms. The 4th bedroom that's currently upstairs will be an open loft, to the downstairs, no doors on it or anything. So that bedroom is just being shifted downstairs for him to be able to stay on the first floor.
All right, so once you get all that documentation, you can submit it, and then we can make
Yes.
a decision, okay?
In the process.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can you have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application for tonight is number 18968, Thomas Lecargerin, location 69 Scarlet Drive, Comac, New York, south side of Scarlet Drive, 417 feet west of Rhett Court, Comac. Property zoned R6. The request is for a variance to increase the distances from the rear of the dwelling from 10 feet to 18 feet. That doesn't make sense. Decrease the setback from property lines from 3 feet to 1 feet for a proposed 432 square foot deck.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? My name is Tom LeCogran. I live at 69 Scarlet Drive in Comac since January of '21. I am here tonight requesting a variance to replace my 20-year-old 10-foot by 24-foot deck. I would like to remove and replace my existing deck with a new 18 by 24 Trek deck. The areas of consideration, I am replacing my old deck for aesthetic beauty and safety reasons. The new deck will not be blocking any views or pathways. My request is substantial due to the desperate need of repairs on the old deck. The new deck will create additional space within the confines of board approval and will enhance the appearance of my community. The extension is within board approval and will not affect the environment, and there's no difficulty created by myself or the prior owner. Thank you for my time.
This is in Tara,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
So when I said board approval, I meant the Tara board approval.
Right.
Not your approval.
No, just to clarify, that's all.
Sure.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Yeah, do you have the affidavit of posting and the affidavit of compliance?
Today, I went and got my final notary, and I left everything, everyone in the building department took it from, the
Okay.
planning department took it
Okay.
from me.
Thank
So
you.
they have it, I gave it to them about 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Sabrina?
No,
Nothing, right?
thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you.
Next case is number 18969, Long Island Elim Chinese Baptist Church, location 1850 Wisconsin Highway, St. James, north side of Wisconsin, Port Jefferson Station Road, 248 feet east of Wilson Street, St. James. Property zoned R10. Request variance to increase the maximum area of a ground sign from 7 square feet to 32 square feet, and to increase the maximum height of a ground sign from 5 feet to 9 feet for a proposed 32 square foot illuminated ground sign.
Good evening.
Go from 7 to 30.
I'm sorry.
We're looking to go from 7 to
Yeah,
32.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Nicholas Nagel. I'm the sign contractor. This is the owner of the property.
Oh, okay.
Nagel, N-A-G-L-E.
I
and
need
this is-
the owner first.
Oh, okay.
My name is Ko Chin Lu. I'm the trustee of the Elim Church. We purchased the property about four years ago, and since we have a road walk, original have a sign, and we try to make a sign for the church.
Okay. You would like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir,
How you
could
doing?
you state your name?
Nicholas-
Spell your last name so we get it correct. and your
Nicholas
address.
Nagel, N-A-G-L-E. The company is Letter Perfect Graphics, and we are looking to put a 32 square foot sign in its place. There was a 40 square foot sign there before the road was widened. The state took it down, so we went to go submit a new permit, and we were told that it was a residential area. So we're looking to go 32 square feet instead of the 7 square feet that's allowed, being that it's facing Route 347 and not really in a residential area.
This site was the former site of the travel agency?
Yes, correct.
It's set
Way back.
pretty far
Yeah,
back, right off the
yes.
road?
Facing
Okay.
347.
Okay,
Our church also set back
Yeah.
the same way.
yeah. Okay. So where the sign's gonna go now, all the construction is done there?
It's all completed,
It's all
yes.
done, so that's gonna be the permanent place of the sign?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Planning?
We don't seem to have the affidavits?
I have everything right here.
All right, if we could have those, that would be great. They propose it in the right location. The only recommendation that we would have is that it be to the west of the driveway, just from a site visibility standpoint, as 347 is a one-way road. So we want to make sure that the ground sign would be to the right as you're exiting the site. You're proposing it in the right location,
Okay.
but the board might want to impose a condition that that happen. The other thing is, we have no objection to the square footage of the ground sign. However, the board, a lot of times on Smithtown Bypass, does recommend monument-style signs. I don't know about putting a masonry base or limiting the height to 8 feet, but the square footage is fine.
It's not really a monument. There's 2 steel poles, so we're not really building anything under it. Up and down that whole road and that whole area is illuminated signs, probably 4 times the height. So, and what was there before was about 15 or 18 feet high, so we're lowering it down to 9. So we figured we'd shrink it down a little bit as it is.
Well, like I said, there was no objection to the square footage or the illumination. What we were saying is, if you look down by Carrabba's, Walgreens, Dirty Taco, you'll see a monument style where traditionally it's the sign, but it sits on a.
Okay, so we.
A masonry
Okay,
base.
I apologize. We could put a base there, which is no big deal. Instead, so you don't see the poles, we could put like a nice base underneath instead.
It's just more aesthetic. that's
Yeah, it's
all.
no problem.
Okay. Nothing? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go. No? Next case, 18943 Ursula Tadaro, 21 Arden Lane, Comac, New York, north side of Arden Lane, 315 feet west of Montrose Drive, Comac. Property zoned R10. The request is a special exception to permit temporary living quarters for a parent a variance to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 7 feet to 6 feet for a proposed 476 square foot garage conversion. Mr. Chairman, we've submitted a planning advisory report to the board for its consideration as well.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Ursula Tadaro. I am the owner of 21 Arden Lane in Comac, and I would like Mark Anthony to speak on my behalf.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Mr. Chair, my name is Mark Anthony Munisteri. That's Munisteri, architect. My office is located at 1563 Belmore Avenue in Belmore. This evening, we're requesting variances for a temporary parent-child use with a garage conversion. Within this, we would like to reduce the side yard for this garage conversion from the 7-foot approved from the BZA hearing, case number 01991, to the actual 6-foot as it sits. We believe this is a clerical error at the time of the hearing, which is previous to our clients owning the home. Our extensions, which are not part of this variance, are designed to meet all the zoning requirements. With the parent-child use, Josephine Lamonto's mother, Vincenza, who's out there, will be using the temporary quarters, which includes the 476 square feet of converted garage. This temporary living quarters will include a single bedroom, a living room, open to a small kitchen, a 3-piece bathroom, and a dual-entry access laundry room. There is and will not be a separate entry for the temporary living space. That concludes our case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
The recommendation is to approve the special exception and the variance request. There is no secret recommendation, and I believe I'll allow Sabrina to answer that with respect to Health Department.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the current application to create at least 6 bedrooms, including 2 proposed master bedrooms, may exceed Department of Health standards. DEW recommends that the board withhold action pending receipt of an application submitted to the Office of Wastewater Management that conforms with health standards. We have notified the applicant's representative of their need to contact the Health Department. Lastly, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments received by the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight on this application. Thank you.
It's in process as well.
Okay, so you've contacted the health department?
Yes, we've hired Takar. He's in process. Thank you.
All right, once you submit all of that, then we'll be able to make a decision.
Got it.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Next case, number 18944, John Barnett, 148 Southern Boulevard, Nesconset, New York. West side of Southern Boulevard, 211 feet north of Wysocki Court, Nesconset. Property zoned R15. They're requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 45 feet to 22 feet for an existing 6-foot PVC fence.
Good evening.
Good evening, Board. I submitted an affidavit. I don't know if you have a copy.
I thought he meant that they were posting.
I think it's this one here. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much that. Some mistakes. Also, I tried to resolve it with the 3 out of 20 neighbors that are affected by the 200-foot radius. And it's only about 3 neighbors that are objecting, and out of the 20, but with the 200-foot radius of the covenant. But that's about it. I mean, I have no other. This also just want to I don't know if it's in the affidavit or not, but this problem was created by the Highway Department and the Building Department issuing permits in error, and I'm trying to resolve it, but it's been pretty difficult. And I'd like to get it resolved as soon as possible. I'm a two-war veteran, Iraq, Afghanistan. I have PTSD, and this is not healthy for me. So I'd like to get it resolved as soon as possible. That's it.
All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions? No. Planning?
We do, but, actually, he's gone. Mr. Barnett, can you just come to the podium? Are you able to zoom in on that? I know you've been trying to resolve some of the issues. I think the board's aware that a lot of the variances cannot be approved as is right now because there are planning board covenants that were put on the property. So the fence in the current location for this board to basically grant variance approval to allow that fence to remain as is, they can't act unless the planning board modifies the existing covenant. One of the issues I know is that there's some sort of a requirement that it require approval or consent of neighbors that were part of this subdivision. I do know that Mr. Barnett's been trying to rectify some of the situations. The gate, the photo that you see of the gate, am I correct to say that that's no longer a double gate, that you modified it?
It addressed the major issue of the covenant, which was trying to keep traffic at a very minimum in the cul-de-sac. So there's not going to be a traffic problem anymore because you can't egress or ingress through that gate, and that addressed the major issue of the covenant.
So it's correct to say that you can't drive a vehicle into your backyard because
Right,
the gate's
exactly.
been modified?
And that was the major purpose of the covenant.
Okay.
So you can't go egress, ingress through that property, through that lot, that particular lot 3. Yeah.
So the other, I guess, just so the board's familiar with what is going on here, when the subdivision went in, there is a covenant that states that no structure can be placed beyond 220 feet from the front property line of Southern Boulevard. If you look on the screen, you'll see the red arrow, and you'll see where that allows him to put a fence. His fence is this existing fence that he's looking to legalize is beyond that 220 feet. In order for this board to approve that variance, that covenant needs to be modified by the planning board. However, we don't want him, if it's to go to the planning board, if we can't come up with some sort of compromise with the neighbors, whether it's landscaping, elimination of the curb cut, that sort of thing. Strict compliance without any kind of relief from this board, the fence would have to be where you see the green dashed line. It's basically a 50-foot arc off of Laura Court. Anything within the red area, that 220 feet, this board can grant relief on. So I think Mr. Barnett's aware. I just didn't know where we left off since the last hearing.
So if his intention is to keep the fence where it is, we need to go, or he needs to go back to the planning board, get the covenants modified, and then come back to this board for a decision.
Right, the board can only grant relief within that red 220 feet area.
Oh, I just wanted to also note I can't afford that planning board fee of $1,000, so I'm going to have to get donations, and I already have some people lined up, but I won't be able to afford the planning board to modify the covenants. But I'm going to have to, my fellow veterans are going to help me out, so.
Thank you.
You want to keep it open?
I think we have to keep it open, right?
Yeah, I think the neighbors should come up.
All right. Keep it open.
These are the neighbors. Are they here?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out when we can do it. You have,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, DEW wishes to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight on this application.
all right. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak on this application? Come on up, please. Your neighbors are going to speak. Yeah.
Good evening, board members. My name is Frederick Glock, G-L-O-C-K. I reside at 19 Laura Court in Wisconsin, which is Lot 1 on the map of Laura Park. And just like to thank you for clarifying the restrictions on the covenant, because that involves me. Over 30 years ago, I had my home built on Laura Court with the knowledge that there was a covenant and restrictions on Laura Park stating that there would be no additional access or fence permitted within 45 feet of the court, which is that 220-foot mark from Southern Boulevard. At the last meeting on June 13th, board member Mr. Donadio said, and I quote for the minutes, "Perhaps based on some of the testimony by the neighbors, the most recent person that spoke, you may want to leave the application open just to see if Mr. Barnett wants to take those comments into consideration and do any of the work, and maybe come back to the board and show that the privacy screening has been installed, the curb cut and driveway have been eliminated, as opposed to closing it and having to come back again." As of this date, July 11th, as you can see from Mr. Barnett's pictures, nothing has been changed. We seem to be going around in circles, as we have been for the past 6 years, 7 years since the violations. On May 11th, 2017, Mr. Barnett applied for a waiver request. This is it right here. A waiver request on the covenants and restrictions of Laura Park pertaining to the restrictions of U and V, which would then allow him access to a fence closer to Laura Court. Also, on June 13th, 2017, he applied for a variance request for the same existing fence we're here for today, 2017. On January 11th, 2018, you, the Town Board of Zoning Appeals, denied his request. In 2018, Mr. Barnett challenged the covenant and restrictions of Laura Park in the Supreme Court, State of New York. This is the decision. Let's see. On December 10th, 2021, Judge Carmen Victoria St. George ruled against Mr. Barnett. Here we are today on July 11th, 2023, and we have circled back to the same variance request previously made on June 13th, 2017. That was denied. Together with the town of Smithtown, the homeowners included in the covenant have attempted together to negotiate multiple times with Mr. Barnett through our lawyers, but have not been able to come to an agreement. Mr. Barnett wants the covenant and restrictions of Laura Park overturned regardless of what the town of Smithtown and the Supreme Court of the State of New York ruled. Obviously, the covenant and restrictions of Laura Park was drawn up for the reason of protecting the homeowners of Laura Court and therefore should be upheld and enforced by the town of Smithtown. That's what we've requested from the beginning, and again, what the town of Smithtown and the Supreme Court of New York ruled for. I cannot reiterate this enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board, Associates. A couple points of clarification, if I may.
Can you just introduce yourself first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
21 Laura Court, Nesconset, M-I-N-E-T. I apologize. A couple points of clarification. One is Mr. Barnett would like to resolve this. I agree with that. We'd like to resolve this. It can be easily resolved, and the fence can, and again, I'm not speaking for my neighbors, but the fence could probably stay in its existing position, and the covenant could be modified if the driveway, curb cut, apron, whatever you want to call it, is removed. There's the resolution right there. That's been our contention or concession all along, but Mr. Barnett doesn't want to make any concessions. He wants the driveway, curb cut, apron, and he wants the fence. The other thing I'd like to clarify is that the post that he's put up on the gates of the driveway, the fence, yes, it prohibits a car from going down his driveway, but it doesn't stop a car from parking on the 12 or however many feet pad he's constructed on the rear of his property, just outside the fence and the curb cut and apron. You can park a car there, and the covenant specifically says that that property shall have no access to Laura, there'll be no access to Laura Court from that property. That is access to Laura Court from his property. So our contention from the beginning has always been, we're willing to compromise, leave the fence where it is, put up a few bushes, just, I'll be happy to come over and grab a sledgehammer and take that apron out myself, if Mr. Barnett can't afford to do so. I would also make a point that in the last meeting, I'm reading from the minutes here, Mr. Barnett said, I'm willing to plant trees, I quote, I'm willing to plant trees around the perimeter so there's privacy like there was before. There were trees around the perimeter of the fence, and there is a wooden fence. I would plant trees. And there's also PVC fence. I could plant trees there, evergreens, and they will go up about 15, 20 feet for privacy. There will be a privacy barrier. Well, that's great. Subsequent to that, Mr. Barnett contacted us in good faith, trying to negotiate, with an email where he said that he would be willing to allow the neighbors to come onto his property, plant the trees, and pay for them as well. So at our expense, we could plant the trees, do the labor, and pay for the trees. So that doesn't quite jive with the comments he made in the last meeting. We then wrote back to Mr. Barnett, emailed back that until and unless the driveway curb cut was removed, we wouldn't be in any consideration or have any consideration of changes to the covenant. And we left it at that. He wrote back one more time, basically reiterating the same thing. So as my neighbor Fred said, we're kind of going around in circles. We're back here. We're willing to make a compromise. And as far as the expenses are concerned, Mr. Barnett can save a lot of money if he leaves his fence in the existing position, puts up some small shrubs that'll grow in 2 or 3 years, and just takes out the curb cut and the apron. Problem solved. Maybe the town would be willing to put in a new curb cut. I don't know. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Hopefully, the last time you'll have to hear from me. Thanks for listening. Have a good
I
night.
just have a question.
Yes, please.
Do you speak for all the homeowners in the
Well,
area?
you heard from Fred, my neighbor. We
Right.
have a third neighbor in the back, Tony Wong, who lives next to Mr. Barnett, who also is in agreement with our position that until and unless the curb cut and apron is removed, we won't consider any changes to the covenant pertaining to the fence. And there are only 5 houses in Laura Park that are covered by the covenant. There's not 200 houses, there's 5 houses. 3 of the homeowners of the 5 are here. One is Mr. Barnett, number 4, and the 5th has abstained from the beginning because he's on Southern Boulevard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else like to be heard? Sir?
Good evening. Good evening, board members. My name is Glenn Forbes. I reside at 5 Laura Court in Wisconsin, New York. I just wanted, for the record, I think I heard Mr. Barnett say that 3 out of 20 will make it 4. All right, I don't get any of the updates other than coming to meetings, but living on Laura Court, since the time that this began, I would object to the variance. And I just want to reflect to the very first day when this project started. At the end, trucks came down the block and the whole wooded area was cut down. All right, Mr. Barnett was asked to stop by the police department and then a town member, and he continued along with the process. So I just wanted to let everybody know, if they didn't know that, that's how we got there. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else wants to speak on this application? No? Want to leave it open or if you close it?
I would recommend that we adjourn it to a later date. Based on what some of the neighbors have been saying, I want to first speak to the highway superintendent, see if the highway superintendent is inclined to do any of the work within the public right-of-way only, because the highway department would not be permitted to go onto the private property. However, they do control the right-of-way of Laura Court. So I'll speak to Robert Murphy and see if that's something that they'd be inclined to do, since there shouldn't be a highway work permit anyway, have issued. It was encouraging what the neighbors have said regarding the fence, because if the board was inclined to grant variances, traditionally, you don't like a solid wall that's prone to graffiti. You normally like to soften it with landscaping anyway. I don't see an issue with having a gate, because a homeowner still needs the ability to maintain the other side of a fence. They have cut off the vehicle access. Like I said, I just didn't want to send it to the planning board if we were just going to have the same logjam.
September 12th gives you enough time?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to adjourn this till September 12th. Okay? All right, September 12th. Yeah.
Yeah, before I did the improvements that were permitted by Highway and Building Department, that whole area was dilapidated, and there was drug use back there, crimes going on, and trees were overgrown. The property was vacant for 5 years before I moved in, and I made a tremendous improvement to the property and that backyard area, and it's just these 3 out of the 14 people in the 200 feet radius are really causing a problem with me with the home improvement. But I appreciate the support for veterans that they're showing, and war veteran, two-time war veteran. I appreciate it, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, next application, number 18970, MLC Holding LLC, 168 Town Line Road, Kings Park, New York, southeast corner of Town Line Road and Old Northport Road, Kings Park. Property zoned LI. Request special exception to permit a repair garage, special exception to permit outdoor storage, special exception to permit trucking station, variance of a special exception standard to permit outdoor storage or display of vehicle parts, dismantled vehicles, tires, and similar accessories, and to permit area of overnight storage and parking of vehicles to be over 3,500 square feet. Variance of a special exception standard to permit outdoor storage to exceed the gross floor area by 22 times. That's 418,300 square feet. Variance of a special exception standard to reduce the minimum setback from 100 feet to 0 and to eliminate the densely planted buffer. Variance of a special exception standard to permit the height of outdoor storage to exceed 6 feet. Permit vehicle storage to exceed 14 feet and for storage and shipping containers to exceed 10 feet. Variance of a special exception standard to permit loading and unloading between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. Variance to reduce minimum landscape area of a lot from 18% to 0%. Reduce the minimum front yard landscape area of a lot from 80% to 0%. Permit light pole heights over 18 feet in height. Permit walls and fences greater than 4 feet in the required front yard, and to reduce front yard setback from 50 feet to 0 feet for a wall fence on Old Northport Road. Permit a wall and fence greater than 4 feet in the required front yard, and to reduce front yard setback from 50 feet to 0 feet for walls and fences along Town Line Road. Permit walls and fences greater than 6 feet, and to reduce the minimum parking from 119 to 39. I'll also reiterate that the board has a planning advisory report.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. My name is Michael Cox, COX. I reside at 225 Ashroken Avenue, Northport, New York, and the subject we're talking about is my property. I would like my engineer to speak in my behalf. That would be
Thank
great. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer myself as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening to the board. My name is Joseph Clemens, a partner within the firm German and Clemens Architecture PC, operating out of 3275 Veterans Memorial Highway, Suite B11, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779. I'm speaking to you this evening on behalf of my client, Mr. Cox, a member of the MLC Holdings LLC, with regards to their request to maintain the existing special exception uses and structures on the subject site located at 168 Town Line Road in Kings Park, a property which is irregular shaped and approximately 465,640 square feet, or 10.69 acres. The subject site is located in the LI Light Industry Zone District and has road frontage along both Town Line Road and Old Northport Road. North of the site is LI and HI heavy industrial zoning that is developed with a mix of commercial and industrial uses, and another property which is owned by my client under a different LLC and is filed under a separate application as well, which we'll be speaking of this evening too. To the east is a mix of heavy industrial and R43 single-family residential with a minimum of 1 acre requirement, zoning that is developed with similar type industrial uses. South of the subject site is an LI zoning developed with similar mix of industrial uses as well, including a sand mining operation and an outdoor storage lot for new automobiles. Lastly, west of the site across Town Line Road is the town of Huntington landfill and the Convanta incineration plant. It should be noted that the nearest resident to this property is approximately 1,000 feet away to the east. It was already stated which variances and special exceptions were going on for this evening, so I won't repeat them. The zoning ordinance of the town of Smithtown has special standards which are considered with the request for special exceptions. With regard to the request for repair garage, outdoor storage, and trucking station, the majority of the criteria is met as it relates to the provided plan. However, the proposal currently does not comply with 6 of the 13 special exception standards, all of which would be addressed via the variance requests. With regard to the area variance requests, the proposal could technically be altered better to comply with zoning requirements and reduce or eliminate some of the requests indicated within the provided Planning Department advisory report. With that said, however, we feel that there would not be an undesirable change in the character or the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The surrounding properties operate in a similar manner with similar uses. Once again, it appears as if the nearest residential property is approximately 1,000 feet away. The request for the area variances may appear to be substantial, but that would be more numerical in nature. The proposed variances will not have any further adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district simply because the requests are in relation to currently existing and operating uses on the site. In summary, the request is to maintain the existing special exception uses and associated variances. The subject site presently has over 50 tenant spaces of various uses, several of which require the above-mentioned special exception approval, including 6 truck stations, outdoor storage, and repair garages, which are used in connection with businesses owned by my client, as well as rented yard space for other independent contractors. The Town of Smithtown Board of Site Plan Review had approved the originally developed and existing industrial building of approximately 11,924 square feet and associated parking back in July of 1974. Referencing the Suffolk County GIS viewer, portions of the site appear to have been used for storage some sort dating back to as early as 1978. The request for such uses would not violate the general intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance or be detrimental to the general health, safety, and welfare of the town or aesthetics of the surrounding neighborhood. The light industrial district allows for, by way of special exception, the requested repair garage, outdoor storage, and trucking station as stated. My client is simply looking to bring his site further into conformance while continuing to operate his already established business. Overall, the family owns quite a bit of property within the area. From my opinion, the properties are typically well-maintained and aesthetically pleasing from the roadways by ways of landscaping. We would therefore respectfully request that you consider our request for the special exceptions and variances as we look forward to continuing to be a good neighbor and, more importantly, be an asset to the town of Smithtown. I appreciate your time, and of course, I'll answer any questions which you have.
Okay. The lighting, the poles that are there now, are they over 18 feet?
Some of which I believe are over 18 feet. I know per the recommendations submitted by the planning department, they were not going to be allowed to stay above 18 feet, so realistically, I guess we wouldn't have a choice but to bring them into conformance.
Okay. Are they on a time clock? They go off at night, or are they on?
Yes, they are.
They're on a time clock?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Mr. Chairman, as I said, we did provide a planning advisory report, and there's a substantial number of requests. Several of the requests, we're recommending approval with conditions. We do recommend denial of any light pole over 18 feet in height. We're also recommending that some requests be modified, such as the height of a retaining wall or fence not to exceed 8 feet. Some of the setback relief we're recommending be conditioned or reduced in request. We are recommending 6 conditions be added to it. Condition number 1, that the junkyard and all unregistered and dismantled vehicles be removed from the site. Number 2, that the site be limited to 3 curb cuts on Old Northport Road and 2 on Town Line Road. Curb cuts and outdoor storage shall be repositioned to maximize visibility from motorists exiting the site, and all gates be set back a minimum of 50 feet. Number 3, an application to the Board of Site Plan Review be required. That on-site drainage be installed as directed by the engineering department, and all water runoff be contained on-site. Number 4, that outdoor storage exceeding 6 feet in height, including shipping containers and tractor trailers, not be stored within 25 feet of the front property line of Old Northport Road and Town Line Road. Number 5, that adequate on-site restroom facilities be provided for use by all tenants. We have over 50 tenant spaces, and the only restroom facilities are in the office building currently. Number 6, that building permits be obtained for all existing and proposed building structures. There is no secret at this time, so the board can't make a decision, but that's our recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, DEW wishes to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments received by the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight on this application. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? Sir, come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mike Rosato. I reside at 12 Country Oaks, Kings Park. It's ROSATO. Welcome. In order to be granted a zoning variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals, an applicant must demonstrate the existing zoning restrictions have caused unnecessary hardship. In this case, what evidence is there that this applicant is experiencing any difficulty due to the existing zoning restrictions, since they've never abided by the rules to begin with for decades? In fact, operating outside of town regulations has substantially benefited them at taxpayers' expense and has given them an unfair advantage over their competitors. Because they have no approved site plans or certificates of occupancy for numerous structures on their properties, they have not paid their fair share of taxes to the local school district and town for years, and have placed the environment, their employees, and tenants in harm's way. This applicant is currently illegally using their property for a truck repair garage, a trucking station, an outdoor storage for dozens of tenants without an approved accessory use, and as unpermitted fuel tanks on the site. Not only are they asking you to legalize this activity, but they also want you to throw away the rule book governing land use in our town. The applicant wants variances to reduce the minimum setback for outdoor storage on his site from 100 feet to the existing 0 feet, to permit outdoor storage to exceed gross floor area by 22 times, reduce minimum parking from 117 to 39 spaces, to increase outdoor storage height restrictions, to allow nighttime operations, reduce all minimum parking setback requirements to 0 feet, to permit walls and fencing greater than 6 feet, while reducing their setback to 0 feet, and to reduce the minimum landscape area and front yard landscaping to the site's existing 0 feet. These requests are not only grossly excessive, they are essentially asking the town to reward this applicant's misbehavior by disregarding town regulations. Let's also not overlook that this applicant illegally drains his property onto a public road and currently leases the property to over 50 tenants with no permitted restrooms and cesspools. This alone should trigger a CEQA review. They have consistently made a mockery of the town's building and operating requirements and are now making precedent-busting requests to maintain the status quo. In truth, they should be shut down immediately until they are in full compliance with the law, just like everyone else is required to do. The ZBA must deny all variance and special exception requests from this applicant based on the facts already described and the following criteria. All variances requested have already resulted in undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood due to the current illegal activity on the site. The applicant has obviously not considered any alternative strategies to a variance that would be lawful within the existing ordinances, and in fact is asking you to greenlight his existing town code violations. The variance requested are substantially excessive and are not conforming with the neighborhood town code requirements. Variances requested have already had a negative impact on the environment, such as drainage, sewage, noise, traffic congestion, site intensification, lack of natural buffers, etc. And the need for all 30-plus variances on these two applications and special exception request is clearly the result of the applicant's self-creation. Please deny. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Anyone? Come on up, please.
My name is Karen Welkes, 53 Heights Road in Fort Salonga. I had a lot to say, but actually Mr. Rosato said everything that needed to be said. I'm here to support all of that, to let you know that this represents the wishes of the Fort Salonga Association, several Comac residents, Northport residents, and Kings Park residents. This is not a single person who is entering into opposition. This is, if you read the master plan, which I'm sure all of you have, we have, there's a lot to read. But the essence of it is that we're supposed to be making the community better. We don't have to live on top of these illegal company sites in order to see them every day on our way to and from our homes. They're close enough. That area, as you know, has been a disaster, and this is just going to continue to perpetuate that. Looking at the master plan, we want to make it better. We don't want to switch to giving the green light, the okay, to heavy industry operations that are zoned light industry. We want to maintain light industry at the worst, and we want you to be able to put in the parks and recreation and attractiveness that the master plan speaks to. We're here to do better, not to perpetuate what is really a scandal. And that's what's been going on in that town line, Old Northport Road area. So I don't want to take any more of your time. As I said, Mike did a great job. He hit all the touchstones, and I just beg for you to understand it's not one person, it's the community that needs your support in denying 19 variances and special exceptions that will only make the area worse than it already is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard? Good evening.
Walter Andrews, how are you? 23 Brewster Avenue, Fort Salonga. It's off of Bread and Cheese Hollow Road. Been going down that area for 50 years. It's only gotten better. Trucks got to go somewhere. Smithtown doesn't have that many places for trucks and parking area, and the place hasn't changed. I can't see what the gentlemen are having a problem with. I think the truckers have more of a problem with the cars being down that neck of the woods than the cars have with the trucks. The place looks fine. Like the gentleman said, he does maintain a decent piece of property. And I see no objection to having it. And again, you know, Smithtown should provide for some of the truckers in the industry and the repair shops. And as far as the setback goes or everything, lighting, who's the lighting going to affect? It's not like somebody's sleeping and it's going to keep everybody awake. So I think they were kind of unfounded, the problems that they have with this area. I think it's just fine the way it is. And I hope that you decide in favor of Mr. Cox.
All right. Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Anyone else like to be heard on this application? Anyone else? Once I call Mr. Cox back, that's it. Nope. Mr. Cox, would you like to reply?
Yes, thank you for that. I don't even know the gentleman. That was very nice. I just want to let everyone know that I've been in the area for about 35 years. It's been in bad shape, the whole 2-mile stretch, whatever it may be, down in that particular area. From day one, I came in, cleaned it up, I maintained the road. I have guys out there actually every Saturday sweeping the road, weeding, trimming, etc. And if you go through the area, you'll see it's probably more together than anything down there. Everyone's fence lines are really 10 foot on the property line. It's been that way for probably 50 years. I have pictures back from, you know, the Carlson area. There's been trucks, there's been all the same activity for just so long. And I just want to say, back maybe 8, 10 years back, time goes so fast you don't even remember, but Vincent Tremarco's law firm was trying to do something with this particular area, and I was all on board back then. And I think the town has been trying to put all this together for quite some time, and just want to know, I want to be in compliance and move ahead. And regarding fuel tanks, they do have Board of Health approval. I have permits on them. There's some storage buildings that we didn't get permits for, but everything down there was basically, a cowboy show. And that's the way it's been forever, and I've been trying to clean it up, and I wish everyone else would put some kind of, facial on the front of their properties as well. So that's where I'm at, and appreciate you listening.
All right, thank you very much. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next case,
1 second. We just
Okay.
gotta get this stuff back.
Another.
All right.
next case, number 18971, Cox and Sons LLC, 2 Old Northport Road. This is the north side of Old Northport Road, approximately 183 feet west of Greenwood Road, Kings Park, property zoned LI. This is a request for a special exception to permit outdoor storage, special exception to permit a trucking station, variance of a special exception standard to permit above-ground fuel storage, variance of a special exception standard to permit outdoor storage to exceed the gross floor area by 12 times, variance of a special exception standard to reduce the minimum setback from 100 feet to 0, and to eliminate the densely planted buffer. Variance of a special exception standard to permit the height of outdoor storage to 6 feet, permit vehicle storage to 14 feet, and storage and shipping containers to exceed 10 feet. Variance of a special exception standard to permit loading and unloading between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. Variance to reduce the minimum landscape area of a lot from 18% to 0, to reduce the minimum front yard landscape area of a lot from 80% to 0%, permit light poles over 18 feet in height, reduce minimum accessory structure setback from 10 feet to 0, to reduce the minimum side yard from 20 feet to 1 foot, increase the maximum height of an accessory structure from 18 feet to 19 feet, to permit a wall and fence greater than 4 foot in the required front yard, and to reduce front yard setback from 50 feet to 0 feet for a wall or fence. Permit walls and fences greater than 6 feet, to reduce the minimum required parking from 48 to 19, and to reduce the minimum parking setback to the front property line from 50 feet to 0 feet, and reduce the minimum parking setback from the rear property line from 6 feet to 0 feet.
Good evening.
Good evening. Michael Cox. I reside at 225 Ashroken Avenue, Northport, New York. And I'm the property owner.
Okay. And
I would like my guy here to take over from this point, if you don't mind.
nope, it'll be fine. Again, just introduce yourself, sir.
Yep. Good evening to the board. My name is Joseph Clemens, a partner within the firm German and Clemens Architecture, PC, operating out of 3275 Veterans Memorial Highway, Suite B11, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779. I'm speaking to you this evening on behalf of my client, Mr. Cox, a member of Cox and Sons LLC, with regards to their request to maintain the existing special exception uses and structures on the subject site located at 2 Old Northport Road in Kings Park, a property which is triangular shaped and approximately 106,191 square feet, or 2.438 acres. The subject site is located in the LI Light Industry Zoning District. North of the subject site is LI zoning and is developed with a mix of various industrial uses, including concrete manufacturing, trucking stations, outdoor storage, and outdoor composting. To the east of the property is a mix of heavy industrial and R43 single-family residential with a minimum 1 acre requirement, zoning that is developed with similar types of industrial uses. South of the subject site is Old Northport Road with other parcels which are zoned light industrial and consist of a similar mix of industrial uses. And lastly, west of the site, across from Town Line Road, is the Town of Huntington landfill and the Convanta incineration plant. It should be noted that the nearest resident to this property is approximately 1,500 feet away to the north. Once again, the special exceptions and variances were already listed, so I won't repeat. The zoning ordinance of this town of Smithtown has special standards which are to be considered with the request for special exceptions. With regard to the request for outdoor storage and trucking station, the majority of the criteria is met as it relates to the provided plan. However, the proposal currently does not comply with 6 of the 11 special exception standards, all of which would be addressed via the variance requests. With regard to the area variances requested, the proposal could technically be altered to better comply with the zoning requirements and reduce or eliminate some of the requests as indicated within the provided Planning Department advisory report. With that said, however, we feel that there would not be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties. The surrounding properties operate in a similar manner with similar uses. Once again, it appears as if the nearest residential property is approximately 1,500 feet away. The request for the area variances may appear substantial, but that would be numerical in nature. The proposed variance will not have further adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district simply because the request is in relation to currently existing and operating uses on the site. In summary, the request is to maintain the existing special exception uses and associated variances. The subject site includes a trucking station with outdoor storage, which are used in connection with the existing asphalt paving and landscaping companies which are owned by my client, as well as rented yard space for other independent contractors. The Town of Smithtown Board of Site Plan Review had approved and originally developed existing industrial building of approximately 4,446 square feet and associated parking back in November of 1961. Referencing the Suffolk County GIS viewer, the site appears to have been used for storage of some sort dating back to as early as 1962. The request for such uses would not violate the general intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance or be detrimental to the general health, safety, and welfare of the town or aesthetics of the surrounding neighborhood. The light industrial district allows for, by way of special exception, the requested outdoor storage and trucking station as stated. My client is simply looking to bring his site into further conformance while continuing to operate his already established business. Overall, the family owns quite a bit of property within the area once again, and from my opinion as well, the properties are typically well-maintained and aesthetically pleasing from the roadways by ways of landscaping. As such, we would respectfully request that you consider our request for the special exceptions and variances as we look forward to continuing to be a good neighbor and, more importantly, an asset to the town of Smithtown. And once again, I appreciate your time and consideration on the matter.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Mr. Chairman, the Planning Department prepared a planning advisory report for the board. There are numerous requests, several of which we're recommending approval with conditions. We do recommend that a couple be denied, and others we recommend be modified. Up on the screen is a sketch. We're recommending that the frontage along Old Northport Road be modified in accordance with this sketch, and the requests are reflected to match this plan. So our recommendation is that you decide on the variance and special exception requests with a condition that the site be modified in accordance with the sketch prepared by the Planning Department dated July 6th, which is what you see on the screen. This is for an improvement of visibility and to motorists exiting the site, and also aesthetics for the public that's traveling along Old Northport Road. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, DEW wishes to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments received by the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight on this application. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Yeah? Come on up. Well, no, can you get the microphone, please?
Sorry, I thought it was loud enough. I'm always told to shut up. 23 Brewster Avenue, Walter Andrews, Fort Salonga. I've been driving down that road since 1968, and yeah, I see nothing different. I don't see a need. I still drive down that road. I don't see a need for worry about any aesthetics for any lawns or any provisions for landscaping. I think the gentleman should be granted what he's asked as far as a setback, because I don't see it as a problem. I don't know what Suffolk County has for a record as far as any accidents down there, but as far back as I can remember, I can't remember any of them, any accidents being down there for that to be worried about people coming onto the road. I know you got your rules, and again, I say that what does it hurt for Smithtown to have an area for trucks? And I think the gentleman's got a valid point, and I think Smithtown needs a place for people to go. They must be dozens and dozens of people that are getting kicked out of their yards, landscapers, asphalt guys, little dump trucks that park in their yard. You need a place like what the gentleman has. And I think Smithtown should provide that. I don't think it's any founded. I do know that, everybody pays their fair share of taxes. I don't know how much more taxes you're going to get that the last gentleman on the last issue you had taken up comes up with no taxes, not fair share of taxes, and how it affects him in any way. But like I said, I've been there since '68, and I think the place is a necessary, if you want to call it an evil, necessary evil. And it's good. The area is surrounded by a dump in the back, surrounded by a dump in the front, surrounded by the railroad in the north, and other businesses of such manner to the south of it. So I can't see as any of this being, I understand that the town has their rules, and I think they should make an exception, because I don't know how many places there are like this in Smithtown. And where would the people go that may be evicted by you taking up a grass area of 50 feet? Should there not be any other room for them to go? And it's just a point of view sitting here listening to what's going on. So I hope you grant the gentleman what he's asking for, and I don't see it as being a detriment to anybody else. And it's an industrial area. Doesn't hurt anybody, and it's on a plume already. I don't see any pollution, but yeah, definitely control, no fuel in the ground, and I agree. So I wish you'd decide in the gentleman's favor. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else like to be heard on this application? Anyone else? Good evening.
Hi. Yes, Mike Rosato. Just want to make it clear, I'm representing the Kings Park Community Association on this application, as well as the last one. Everything I said on the last application is relevant for this one as well. And this landowner has repeatedly disregarded the rules, and he needs to be held accountable. And going forward, he needs to abide by the rules that are on the books, that are there to protect the residents of our community, and to set a precedent so other people don't blatantly disregard them like this gentleman has over the last 2 decades. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Anyone else? Once I call Mr. Cox back, that's it? No? Mr. Cox?
Pretty much I'm done, and I kind of said what was needed to be said, I believe. And like I said, be happy to move and beautify the whole area. It would be great if everyone jumped on board and we did what we all had to do. And like I said, I've been there quite some time, and we give it our best shot. So I thank the board for listening all night, and beautiful. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. And that concludes our meeting for tonight.